You are looking at a glossy photograph from 1972. The Rolling Stones on an American tour. Mick Jagger in a clinging bodysuit. Keith Richards with a guitar like a razor blade. Star-shaped sunglasses. Leather, sweat, shine. The band is at its peak. They have just released Exile on Main Street, a double album that sounds like it was recorded in a basement during the apocalypse. They need a film, a promo, another brick in the wall of their dangerous reputation. So they hire the perfect candidate, Robert Frank, legendary Swiss photographer, the man who, in the 1950s, showed America as a desert of flags and loneliness. They give him unlimited access, absolute. No rules. Film everything, Robert, baby. We are artists. Frank films exactly what they ask for. Everything. The result is called Cocksucker Blues. It is not a music film. It is an autopsy performed on a living body. A chronicle that made Jagger's eyelid twitch and lawyers start typing injunctions before the credits finished burning. You see, the boys expected Gimme Shelter, drama with a layer of gloss. Instead, Frank showed them an ambush. 80 minutes of black and white plague, where not a single heroic angle exists. Let me take you inside so you understand the scale of the panic. The most famous scene takes place on a private jet. Sky outside the windows, leather seats, and one of the girls traveling with the tour bent over the lap of a band member. Only she is not posing for the camera. She is doing her job. Next to her, a man reads a newspaper. He does not look. Nobody looks. All you hear is the engine noise and a wet, mechanical sound. Frank does not look away. He holds the lens like a scalpel that has just opened an abdominal cavity. Another scene, a hotel room. An arm wrapped in a tourniquet. A needle slides into a vein. The man leans back into the pillow. He is not a musician. He is a roadie named Jimmy Pop Miller. 3 years later, he will be dead. Frank does not warn the audience. He simply records the moment when a living body decides to become a corpse. The band watches the rough cut. The room falls into a silence you could cut with a cocaine knife. This is not the risk they paid for. They built an empire on hints. Demons, drugs as poetry, sex as art. Frank removed the poetry. He left only the protocol. They were not scared because the film was dirty. They were dirty themselves. They were scared because dirt does not sell. What sells is the shine on the dirt. And Robert Frank, that silent old man with a camera with a Leica used to hold film, wiped away every speck of shine in one motion. Then begins the legal bacchanalia. Courts, injunctions, tearful pleas from the label. The final ruling is a piece of legal surrealism that sounds like a joke until you realize it is true. The film is banned from public exhibition. But, listen carefully, it is not destroyed. It can be shown 4 times a year, only in a museum or archive. And, here is the kicker, only in the physical presence of Robert Frank himself. As long as he is alive. The director becomes the jailer of his own film. Picture this, 1995, a small room, 20 viewers. Frank sits on a chair next to the screen like a guard, making sure no one records this pus-filled wound with a phone camera. In 2019, he dies. The court condition collapses, but the film remains in limbo, neither in circulation nor in complete oblivion. The holy grail for rock fans, available only on moldy bootlegs recorded from a film projector with a shaking camera. Here is the central irony of this investigation. For decades, the Rolling Stones sang "Sympathy for the Devil." They sold the image of men who looked into the abyss and laughed at it. But when the abyss looked back, with a needle in its mouth and semen on its lips, they ran to their lawyers faster than any corporate director whose blackmailer just found child pornography. They were not afraid for morality. They were afraid for the tour schedule, for the faces on the t-shirts, for the mothers in Ohio who might stop letting their daughters attend concerts. Mick Jagger, who in Frank's footage sometimes looks like a terrified hedge fund manager, understood the main lesson. The truth does not sell. And they are salesmen. Now to you, the viewer who has stayed until this moment. You watched the investigation about the Altamont tragedy in 1969, where Hell's Angels stabbed a fan to death right in front of the stage. You clicked on the story of how Keith Richards patrolled the border with a guitar in 1981, half dead from a mixture of heroin and tequila. You are drawn to these black spots, to this aesthetic of the wreck. The question is not about the Rolling Stones. The question is about you. Robert Frank made the film you would want to watch. Honest, unedited, where heroes do not just drink, they choke on their own saliva. Where sex looks like a transaction between two exhausted bodies. Where fame is just a very expensive shelter for suicides. The band told him, "Film the truth." They saw the truth. They buried the truth. They let him film everything. Why would not they let you watch it?